Hello, my name is Reyna Garcia, and the second episode of Clarity today is about faith. And I'm happy to be here, and hopefully you like the video.
Hey everyone, my name is Tom Galke. I'm excited to be here with Reyna as well as we tackle the topic of faith. And as we begin the conversation today, Reyna, again, you chose this topic, something that you wanted to unpack, talk about, explore. And so as we begin, I'd simply ask you, why did you choose the topic of faith for today?
Well, I picked the topic of faith for today because I think that it's been surrounding my life for a lot. I've been going through some situations where at some point I didn't have faith, but then I prayed about it, and that's the only thing that I felt that was good for me. Just pray about it, have faith, let it go, and let God's will be done. So
Can you tell me a little bit about, or tell us about a little bit about what does it mean to have faith or to lose it? How do you know when you say that? What do you mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Well, I wanted to bring up a verse in the Bible, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, where it says, "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen." So, and also, like Jesus said to one of the other verses that I also found interesting was Mark chapter 9, verse 23, where Jesus said to him, "If you can do anything, all things are possible who has faith." And again, I chose this topic because, for example, one of the examples is my cousin. She wanted to buy a house so bad. She's a single mom. She has 3 kids, and life made it hard for her to get to that goal. And she's a religious person. And so, she told me I'm pretty sure she prayed about it. And this was her goal, but there was always obstacles in her goal. And so, like, when I noticed when she would just give up, okay, I'm not gonna get this house. It's fine, whatever. And then a positive thing will come up the next day, and she would have faith again. She would have hope. And this is one of the examples.
That's really interesting. Yeah, thanks. And I'm wondering, I know you just mentioned some ups and downs in your own life, or perhaps some falling in and out of whatever faith looks like to you. It's good to hear this example. Are there other examples in your own life or your own history that you might want to share with us?
Yes. Well, like my cousin, my family and I, we sold our home and we moved to suburbs that we thought we were going to have a home, but somehow the contract didn't go through. And so we were devastated, and we were sad and frustrated at the same time because it just didn't went at like we thought it was going to go. And we just said, you know what, that's fine. We'll let it go. And let's see what happens. And we started looking for houses, and that was bad luck there. And we started looking somewhere else, and bad luck over there as well. And we just said, you know what, we give up and we'll just stay here in an apartment. As long as we're living at peace, we're together, we love each other. That's all that matters. But between the situation, like I prayed about it. I prayed about it. Okay, if this contract is not meant to be, please God, guide us. Take us where we're supposed to be. Let your will be done. And I think that if I didn't pray about it,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't gonna be where we're at right now. Which is better than our first idea or track.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I think I'm hearing it in your story. This example particularly, you talk about the assurance of things hoped for, and what I hear you saying is sometimes the things you hope for didn't actually take place.
Yes.
But through prayer and your faith exercises that you somehow, I think I'm hearing two things. In one sense, you are able to accept what, right, beyond hope, able to accept the present, but also sort of still persevere and kind of wait to see what happens, even though it might be different than the thing you were hoping for. And that's a really interesting kind of
Yes.
dance between faith and hope and acceptance and all of these words we somehow throw around, oftentimes throw around casually. So it's very interesting to hear them all line up in your story.
Yes.
So I wonder, I wonder, where you're at now. We were talking before we hit record today about sometimes how life can be roller coastery. I think that's a common experience for people, and I think a lot of times when we use the word roller coaster, we're talking about our emotions. The path might be a straight line, but it still might feel like ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs to us. And I think you were talking about how faith plays a role in that. So I'm wondering, like, when things do feel rocky or disturbing or nauseous because you're on the roller coaster, what does faith look like to you in those moments? And maybe what does it look like in terms of what do you think about it, but also like what does it mean to practice faith? I heard you talk about prayer. What does faith feel different? What does it look like? Yeah, one of those things.
Right.
What does faith look like in the ups and downs? Yeah.
Right. To me, faith looks like just trusting in God, let it go. Don't worry. Give him all your worries, your anxiety, and I guess just go with the flow. Like even though a roller coaster can go up and down, you're still going on that path. And I think that God is just working things out so that you can still go on that straight line and where you want to be. And like you said, I did pray a lot about getting a home. And this reminds me of also another verse in the Bible, Matthew chapter 21, verse 22. If you have faith, which says, if you have faith, you will receive whatever you pray for. And I truly, truly believe in that, Pastor, because I prayed a lot and I'm specific on my prayers. That's one thing that I've learned is that if you want to pray about something, you have to be specific. But not only that, you also have to do the work, which means keep praying, keep praying, do the work. For example, if you want to get a house, work, save your money, I wish things would just come from, miracle and come from God and, pile of money comes down or a pile of healthy food to make you healthy. That's not the case at times. So we also have to do the work.
I like, I'm intrigued. By um because I think I hear you saying that you have in this case you use the example of a house, right? I don't know what uh each and every person hopes for or desires, but I hear you saying that part of the work in your experience is actually the prayer. But then I think what I hear you saying is that like you do stuff alongside that. It's so there's like the so like the work and the prayer kind of together are work. Did I hear that right? Or is that kind of the
Yes,
experience for you? Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. The prayer, um, you know, a physical job. Being
Mhm.
patient is a work, because if you're not patient, then you're gonna get frustrated and you're just not
Mhm.
gonna let God do his work at his timing.
Yeah, I again, I am every time you articulate it, I'm very struck by you hold together hope in so meaning kind of hope for a specific thing, which is very interesting, uh, alongside a prayer for acceptance of the present, and um I don't always hear people talk that way about it. So I find that very interesting. Can you tell us about a time, maybe where I mean, your house example is very good. You wanted something, you got something else, right? And prayer helped you get through the present. Do you have any other examples of you've talked about losing
Yes,
faith a little bit? Yeah, when has your faith been frustrated or seemingly unanswered, or yeah, and what do you do with that now?
yes. I think one of the other situations where I have lost faith was, after my two daughters,
Mhm.
my husband and I, we wanted to have another baby. Like we wanted to have a baby so bad. Like we wanted like right now, right now. Um, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen when we wanted. And I prayed about it a lot. And I think, I was anxious, frustrated, and sad and angry at the same time. But I'm like, well, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And I just let it go. And that moment that I let it go, that's when it happened. I got pregnant with our third child, and it's been a blessing. And I think I learned from that. That was one of the lessons that, helped me understand faith, you know?
Hmm. No, that's really helpful, and just for the folks at home, so uh, Reyna and Jose have raised some incredible teenagers. They're amazing kids, and their younger daughter is pretty amazing too. So Reyna is amazing at being a parent, as far as I can tell from this side of the Zoom screen. So it's pretty exciting and wonderful. So I just want to say that for the people at home. But yeah, no, this is helpful, and I think some theologians, right, have talked about faith as you know uh trust, right? Like being able to, it's something you stand upon, not there's no assurance that it's going to hold you, but you decide to stand on it and you trust you trust it's going
Right.
to hold you. And I think I hear that a little bit in again in what you're saying is I'm wondering, like, and I know this is a sensitive issue because this is something, as you know, Reyna, that endless families face this. Can you imagine or a scenario in which, like, say, you did not have another child and you still wanted one? What would faith look like? Uh, because I hear a happy ending in your story, but how do you communicate faith, or how would your faith look like if it had turned out differently, and your two amazing daughters were uh, your whole clan?
Well, for that, like, I think about the positives about um either my prayer, or my not having a strong faith, or not, for the outcome not being the outcome that I wanted is, I tell myself, okay, this happened for a reason. I'm not, for example, I'm not um getting that house because either I was going to lose my job, things
Hmm.
happen. trusting in God and just, I guess one of a major example is my brother. When my brother passed away and he was in hospice and he was dying in the hospital bed, we prayed a lot for him to survive and to fight. And he didn't make it, and he passed away. And I was crushed. I was angry at the world, at everybody. And like after those emotions passed, I thought about it and I was like, maybe my brother, he's in a better place now. He's not suffering, physically and emotionally. And I see the positives about it instead of the negatives.
No, that's really helpful, and thanks for sharing that. I think yeah, I think, I guess in my experience of working with well, just being around a lot of people who've died is just kind of part of my job, right? And I know that those are some of the times where we want to cling to our faith the most, to whatever our faith is. We want something to stand on or some blanket to wrap ourselves in, and sometimes that's the hardest time to trust or feel warmed by anything or anyone. And it's so hard. It's so hard, and I know in my experience, even funerals are just very difficult contexts because we're up there saying words about God when everyone,
Right.
many of the people sitting around are feeling what feels like God forsakenness, right? They feel abandoned,
Yes.
they feel alone, and it's just such a tense time, and sometimes it takes years or decades to kind of recalibrate and sort of feel like faith is a thing that we
Right.
cling to again. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Is it
It's
is Oh, sorry. Yeah. Is that sort of your experience as well, or?
Yes. And it's okay to feel those emotions because we're human, like we feel angry and frustrated when something that doesn't go the way that we thought it was going to go. And it's okay, but one of the things is that, like, I didn't want to be stuck in that situation because I was miserable. I was angry at people. I was sad, and that wasn't me. And it's not a good place to be in because that could take you to other bad things like alcohol or drugs or something that's not good for you.
No, that's very very interesting, and I think I think I hear a little bit in you of um well, and I'll just say this is my experience too, is like we can talk about faith and hope a lot, but sometimes well, I think most of the time our faith and hope is born from a place of not having any hope, right? Like that's why we reach for it, and that's why we grasp
Right.
for it, and and uh and I think I also hear a little of the serenity prayer in this, right? Grant me the ability to accept the things I can't change and the courage to change the things I can. That kind of tension between uh, uh, what we kind of just have to accept because we're not in control. Which is, I would love to hear about time you felt in control and then didn't, because I feel like that's a very big faith lesson. I hear a little bit about letting go of control in you, but then also this piece of courage that we actually do have things that we can do, and we're not
Right.
we're not totally powerless. It's a very
Yes.
interesting tension to live in. Yeah, yeah. So how
Right.
did you come? So I did hear you mention kind of giving up control as one way you talked about faith earlier.
Yeah.
Do you want to say more about that? Because I think that's really, really interesting.
Well, the reason why I let go go of things or just let go of, like a person, it's because I want to be at peace.
Okay.
I think I reached that place where I know what peace is, and I love it. Like, I don't want to leave from that spot. I don't want to leave, peace. And that's why when I feel like something's getting me frustrated or angry or sad, like I have to let it go. If not, it's going to take over me and
Mhm.
I'm going to be in a place that I want to be. And so I just, okay, leave it up to God, trust in him, let it go. And again, go with the flow. And this also reminds me of the prayer that says, let his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, there's nothing much I can do. This is out of my hands.
Mhm.
This is your, this is your job, God. Now you do your part. I did mine already.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. And I think I hear echoes here. Yeah. I mean, um, man, I was just talking to someone this week. I mean, there's so many uh, different kinds or different branches or different denominations of Christianity, right? Just in the U.S., like all over. But I know the tradition you and I are associated with. One of the biggest teachings is that well, we love it. This is from First John, right? We love because God first loved us. Like if we're trying to do stuff in the world in order to like have control or to get something or to achieve something, generally we probably will eventually feel at a loss, especially and if we think the whole world is meant to be held on our shoulders. Eventually, we're going to get crushed, right?
Yes.
But I love this sort of alternative idea that God is at work in the world, God is at work in us, and in the right times, in the right moment, in the right season, we're actually able to participate in that work of God's. But ultimately, it doesn't all fall on us. We just are a part of the work, and I for me that's a very freeing thing, and similar to just letting go, but still participating. So.
Yes. And it's funny that you mentioned that because the times that I didn't let it go and I tried to take over, things would come out wrong. The outcome would not be the outcome that I thought it was going to be, or the best outcome. And I learned over and over, like, life was telling me and God was telling me, okay, Reyna, you want to go do it your way? That's fine. But the outcome was not good. It wasn't a positive outcome.
Yeah, I think and it just came to mind for me that you this summer we went on a trip with a handful of our youth here, our teenagers, out
Yeah.
to Ohio, and I remember that you did like a Bible study or a story sharing with them, right? Told a bit of your story, and I remember that one of the things you did at the end of that, or maybe it was somewhere else in the week, but you actually gave them a ritual to do that included writing things down and sort of acting out what you're saying in terms of letting go and hopefully finding peace.
Yes.
Can you tell folks about that ritual and like why you sort of assigned it to the youth?
Well, I assigned it to the youth because I think I read about it, or I don't quite remember. But I told the youth to write something that either made them angry or to put, I don't remember exactly the words, but to put something that they want to let go, either whether it was a situation or a person or, negative, somebody that made them have negative emotions. And then, make it into a ball, and then we threw it into the fire, and then as it burned and then the ashes would go up, usually because they're lighter, that's like a symbol of that burden that shouldn't be yours to carry. You let it go, and let God take care of it. And yeah, that was it.
And I was there, and it was beautiful. It was just a very wonderful moment, Reyna. And I just, I think it really says in ritual. I like rituals, so it says in ritual what you've been saying in words, that there is a peace found in a kind of giving up, or maybe giving over, or like you said, casting burdens. However we symbolize it, throwing balls into the fire, whatever image we use. Yeah, I think that that action that you return to, and the peace that has come with it in your life. Well, I thought it was acted out very well in that ritual, and I think you have a truth that you are sharing, and it's one of the hardest things in the world to do, to let go and to let others have power. And I'll say, especially for those of us, many of us, most of the people we know, right, who have been hurt when they've been vulnerable, right, or
Yeah.
abused when they've been vulnerable. And so this idea of making yourself vulnerable to God can be really creepy, right? Like, it can feel like, when I let myself be vulnerable, when I let go of control, I get hurt. And so I think this message can especially be harmful for those of us, for the folks we know. Actually, could you speak to that for a moment? That kind of the relation between being vulnerable in a way that's helpful.
Yes, actually, it's okay to be vulnerable. One of the things that I've learned is, us humans, we mostly focus on the negative things. This person said this to me, this person did this to me, but what about the outcome? What was the lesson? What did you learn? I always ask myself, this happened to you, Reyna. What did you learn from it? And I learned to just, okay, for example, if somebody, there was a person that said something to me, something mean to me. And I was like, okay, I took it in, I didn't respond, I processed it, and I'm like, what did I learn about it? That it does, I don't care what people say about me. Or another example is, if somebody did something bad to you, either physically, emotionally, or mentally, what did you learn from it? What was the outcome? It taught me how to be stronger, how to be stronger, and, have limits and boundaries to not allow for that to happen again.
That's really helpful. Thanks. And I think what I hear you saying in that, especially as you talk about limits and boundaries, is there's a way to be vulnerable with God, and even to participate in God's love that doesn't seem to have boundaries, but still have boundaries in your own life, so you don't get hurt. We're not called to get sacrificed just for the sake of getting sacrificed, right?
Right.
But it sounds like you have room to both be safe and to love, and just yeah. So be vulnerable, but not in every direction. Am I hearing that right?
Yes.
Man. That's so interesting. So interesting. I think I heard you earlier talk about anger again, and it just reminded me of this, I don't know, saying or teaching where, they say, we sit around and we resent people and we have grudges, and this is the opposite of what you were saying, kind of, right?
Right.
And sometimes what I've heard people say back to that is like, you're not making that person you're mad at suffer or anything by being mad at them. You're you're just giving yourself ulcers. And I find that helpful. Like, I'm going to anger this person to death, and they don't even know. Half the time, people don't even know they hurt you, or they're spending no time thinking about you. And you're letting them, or about me, let me say it that way. But I let them occupy half my life because I'm upset about it. It's what a waste of time. But sometimes it is hard to let go.
Yes, it is. But then, like, you don't feel right. You don't feel right having, that burden or those emotions. And like, I've learned to just, like, okay, think about, God using them to guide you to a better place, be a better person. And for example, like I said, if somebody hurt you, say inside of you, say thank God for letting you meet that person, because You could say, I don't want to be like that person. I'm going to be different. So there's going to be a change. If you didn't met that person and that person didn't do, bad things to you, or said bad things to you, you probably weren't going to say, I'm not going to be like that person, or I'm not going to say things that that person said. You
Mhm.
might say it to somebody else and be mean, and you might learn from that by doing something that you don't want to do.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're reminding me of there's a professor, a writer, author. Her name is Monica Coleman, and she's really smart and funny and a very good author, right? And I think, sometimes when we get into conversations like this, it's hard to know what to do with, again, these, as you say, the bad things or whatever these painful things are that happen. And I like her perspective is, and this is the perspective of a lot of people, is I don't know why we don't blame God for the bad things that happen, at least in her version, right? It's not God didn't like make someone slap you in the face, right? For example, right?
Right.
Apologies to those at home for whom that has happened in horrible ways, but God isn't there like making that person a puppet and making them hurt you. But what at least she says is that God participates in she calls it creative transformation. So we don't know why the bad happens. It stinks that it does, and we don't wish it on
Yes.
anybody. But we do believe that God helps us from the rubble, from the pain, like create something better that doesn't involve that kind of pain. And I think the other metaphor would be like making lemons from lemonade. That's a little too cute for me, but I like the idea of what do we do with this crud that's happened, and how do we use it to build something better in the future? And God is the one who helps us do that. And
Yeah.
anyway, you just reminded me of that, and I've found that very helpful, especially in terms of not wanting to blame God for every bad thing that's happened. You know what I mean? So,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, or give him credit for all the bad stuff that happened, right? Like I don't desire to blame God for everything. So
Yes. Let's just
uh,
have faith in him.
yeah, no, that's so interesting. Well, I had another question that came to mind as we were talking here, Reyna, and I don't know, maybe this will be the last one. Maybe we'll have more. Let's see. But I have heard you talk here on the podcast. I've heard you talk with youth. I've heard you at church. Talk about faith, and I know that faith is an armor. Sometimes it's been wrapped around you. It's been a vehicle that's moved you to the next place. It's been uh, what a thing that burns in you and keeps you going even when stuff is really hard. I know that faith has been a lot of things to you. So I guess, and more than that, right? So I guess my question is, uh, and I hope this is helpful to our listeners. My question is, if you were teaching a class, all right, here we are. Say you have 12 people in front of you, some disciples, right? They're disciples of Jesus, but
Right.
you're leading class today, right? And you had 12 people who had never really done faith things before. What would you tell them to do, or how would you guide them? What would your class about faith look like? What would you have them think or do or learn? And I know this is a really big question, so if you just have a couple of things, that is fine as well. But how do you help someone do the faith thing who maybe doesn't know where to start?
Wow.
Just a small question for you.
Right. Well, I had to learn it the hard way, and I wouldn't want anybody else, to learn it the hard way, but to just have some clarity. Well, to me, I would tell them, trust in God, and by trusting Him, you're trusting yourself. And no matter what the outcome is, that's where He wants you to be.
So can I ask you, all right, how would you do that? Well, for example, you talk about prayer as a way to
Yes.
kind of develop or foster that trust. Can I just ask you, what is not everyone knows this, right? What does prayer look like? Do you kneel somewhere? Do you stand? Do you say a certain thing? Do you just meditate? Do you read? Like how do you do faith in circumstances like that so that you can have that trust or endurance or whatever it is in the moment that you need?
Well, when I pray, I close my eyes. Sometimes I put my hands together, and I sit down. I'm in a quiet place where there's no interruptions. Um, and then I start praying to God, pray about whatever outcome I want it to be. Um, but be specific, be specific about your prayer and what you would like the outcome to be. Um, like God says, ask and you shall receive. But there's also a verse in Spanish that says, ayúdate y te ayudaré, which means help yourself and I will help you. So I pray about it and then I just don't think about it. I let it go. Go about your life, do your work, take care of the things that you need to take care of, and just don't think about it. And it will come at the right time.
Thank you. That's definitely helpful. And I ask because I mean, when we're in church, or at least in the tradition that you and I participate in, a lot of the prayers are written down. We stand and we sit. Good ancient stuff people have been doing for 2,000 years, but I think sometimes we don't know how people pray at home, or people use a book to pray. That's good too. People pray spontaneously, and I think especially as I hear different parts of your story, I do hear that prayer is such an important sustenance that I just didn't want it to go unacknowledged, or if I'd never been in church and someone told me to pray, I would have no idea what to say.
Right.
Sometimes I still don't.
Yes, everybody has their own way. And if I can add something, after praying, like I said, let it go. Because if you try to think about it, I've noticed that when I think about my prayers or whatever I want to hope for, or I'm hoping for, I feel like I'm not letting God do his work. Like I'm still working on the prayer by thinking about it. But if you don't think about it and you let it go, you're like sending it, or, sending it to God and leaving it up to him. But if you're always thinking about it and always thinking about it, I've noticed that nothing happens. Like God doesn't do his work. It takes longer.
Huh. That's really interesting. How do I say this? Right. The word resentment means to like to feel something again and again, and like you get stuck in that vicious cycle, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
And I think what I hear you saying is it's not only when we're angry at someone or resent a person, but there's also this way that even if it's something we need, or whatever it is we're praying about, there is a way to actually turn even our hope into a vicious cycle. Turn our hope into anxiety very quickly, right? If we sort of get stuck in that loop. And what I hear you saying is, at least how you pray is, even whether it's resentment or like what we associate as negative emotions, or even the positive ones, I hear you saying that there's a sort of letting go to any attachment to these these looking backward or looking forward. I hear you talking about this, which is really interesting because I haven't heard many people talk about it that way. So
right.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Oh, wow. Well, Reyna, I think we might be around the end of our time together. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
So I would ask, is there anything else you want to say to folks at home today? And I'd say, is there especially anything you'd like to share with folks who may be struggling, who may not feel ready to let go yet, just because of where they are in their life and perhaps things that have happened to them? Was there any advice or any wisdom or anything you just want to say to folks who may not have arrived at the place of peace that you find yourself at right now?
Right. Well, it's hard. It's hard to be in that spot where they are, if they are there. Mm-hmm. The only thing I could tell them is do things that make them happy. Do positive things that are good to your health, mental health, and emotional health. Go out and have ice cream that you've been wanting to eat, or go out and watch a movie, so that, keep your mind off of those negative thoughts, those bad actions, or, resentment, or you're not in that place of peace. Do self-care, take care of yourself, until you get to that place where you're at peace.
Awesome. Well, Reyna, thank you for letting me join you again. It's been super fun to ask you questions, and I just want to say thanks again for dreaming up this podcast and having it be a place where you can share from your own life, and also where you can dig up that stuff that we don't always talk about. And thanks for creating space where we could listen and share and grow.
Yes, my pleasure.
We'll see you next time, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
See you, everybody. Thank you for your time.